How are you guys doing? So today we're going to actually have two segments. In this video, it's going to be two different topics or whatnot. They don't really relate to each other as well, but they kind of do, if that makes sense. So we're going to be talking about the homeless, and then we're going to get back to in America, and then we're going to get back to talking about the Texas power grid and all that good stuff, and just new information I found out today. All right. So this whole issue with homelessness in America, it has been around for, obviously, every place has homelessness, and it has been around for quite some time. But I don't know. I feel like, it was mainly triggered by the deinstitutionalization. Sorry. I feel like that was one of the main things that really, hit home for it and made it become what it is that it is today. But I have some other little factoids I want to bring in here. And then I do have a little video element about Texas in particular. So let me just get going with it, and then we could get this conversation going. So it was between the years of 1950 and 1970, jobs became that were like in the manufacturing positions where they were actually, you were getting more money for what it is that you were doing. They transitioned from that and went to like service types of industry positions, like, like the waitresses and stuff like that, which actually resulted in people having a lower wage of income, So that was one of the main issues with that, because now people don't have the money to be able to, they're not making that much money at their position. We got Ronald Reagan as the president, and he, was from 1980s is when he was the president, right? His 40th president, and you look at it and it's like, okay, what has he done? If you look at like even Texas, for example, and I'm sure other states have it, you got the Ronald Reagan Boulevard and, whatever. And it's like, okay, so he must have did some really great things in his presidency. And in particular for the homeless situation, we're going to get into what it is that he does, or did rather. So we're going to first talk about what has happened with the homeless, what could have possibly caused this to be what it is today. I mean, you have the decline of incomes, like I said, with the different kind of jobs from the manufacturing to now service. You have people who are not making that much. Then you have the whole issue of affordable housing. Even looking at it now, as much as people try to make it seem like it is, it's a great market or whatnot. A lot of housing is not that affordable, especially when you look at how much people are making. $7.25 an hour, I believe, is the minimum wage currently, when really, the Progressive Party and all that was trying to make it 15, which still is not much. And even when it would be 15, it's not like it would be like we sign a bill, boom, it's $15 right now. No, it was a gradual increase. So that was still nothing, but it would have been something. You know what I mean? We're dealing with this whole issue of the lack of affordable housing. You got people who are not making that much money to begin with. And then you got housing prices, even when you are renting. A lot of rent is extremely expensive and you don't get much for it. You had the issue with the welfare program cutting. Then you have another issue completely of itself, the introduction of drugs. And that's also something that's just, as we've seen it, it affects many communities. It definitely affected the crack cocaine in the Black community. I mean, there's just so many negative things that you see with that. And, then you have we're getting tough on drugs, war on drugs, and all of that. But we're going to stick to the homelessness situation now, with the deinstitutionalization. So that's essentially what it was. It was, you had these asylums, they began to empty them, and they said that they'll get treated at like a mental health kind of place, like a community mental health place. Like that was the goal, right? The goal was to get the people out of the asylum so that we don't have to pay for them anymore, right? And then we'll get them treatment over here, right? But it's like, okay, we're getting them treatment over here. Are you actually doing that though? You know, and the answer is no, that did not happen. So what essentially happened was you took people out of here and people were getting treated for, you know, their mental health, you know, and everything like that up in the asylums. And then once you put them out on the street, they were on the street. I mean, it was as simple as that. You know, it's not like you gave them, like you said, oh, we'll put you in a mental health thing. It's not like you actually put them somewhere else or you did this to them. You're like, okay, well, we're going to close this down. And, that's about it. Deuces. And I mean, that's what they did. But you had that. You had a labor union weakening. I mean, it's so many things. So you have the mental health aspect, you have the drug aspect, you have just the fact that you're not even paying people that much money to begin with to do certain services, but then you raise the prices of everything else up and you skyrocket these prices so that people can't afford it. There was actually it was like this news article, like probably like the local news or something like that. And it was a California one. I believe, I want to say it was Los Angeles that it was for too. And you had like, it was like this strip of people, you know, you had some people that were like living in their cars or whatnot. When I say cars, I mean like some were cars, some were like vans and whatnot. And you just had some people that were just straight up on the street. So it was like, okay, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, what's, the initial thought is like, okay, well, that just means that the person, and this is what a lot of people think, this is why you're homeless, right? Oh, well, the person is lazy. Oh, the person just don't want to work. Oh, well, they just want to save money, right? But like there was this lady who was actually, she was like, yo, I believe she was some kind of, she had like a master's degree or a doctorate degree or something like that. But the education was so expensive. Education so expensive. And then you have the addition of the housing pricing, your wages not being all the way up there, where it should be, making a decent 25 really should be the minimum in all honesty. You're not paying people that much. And she was like, yeah, I have a master's degree and I'm homeless. So could you say that, oh, well, she's just lazy? No, she's a smart person, but because people are not taking care, the government is not taking care of their people. This is your end result. This is what's happening at the end of the day. You have people who, they're just low income. They have high debt. You even have veterans. And another thing about that is, you have people who think, oh, you got veterans hospital, you got this. Then why are there so many veterans on the street? If you really look, there are quite a bit. I remember I used to see, it was like this strip or whatnot on like this main street I used to live by. And it was just so many homeless people. And a lot of them were veterans. So what does that say? Could you say that they're lazy and they don't want to work? They're injured and the government's not taking care of them. That's what that is. This is something that I don't get because, it's just, how could you, and this is what I don't get about people in a position of power. How could you have all this power and then you're just like, well, I can't do anything about it. I don't get how people could really do that. Because like, for example, Even now, you have Kamala Harris as the vice president. And she's like, in regards to like border control and whatnot. Well, sorry, that's, she always does this like crazy laughing. I'm like, yo, like, what are you doing? This is a serious topic and you're laughing. Oh, but she was like, oh, I mean, that's not my job. Well, whose job is it? What the heck? You got the president and they make it seem like you can't do anything. Like there's no executive order. I'm just another civilian. No, you're the president. What are you even talking about? You're the president. Why you make it seem like you can't do anything? That's what I don't understand. They make it seem like they have no power. Then you have people who are in like the progressive party, and then they're like, oh, well, I don't know what we can do. Can you guys help? Can you guys force other people? So you want us to do your job while you're getting paid very well, 6 figures. You got health insurance, you got all, dental, everything, vision insurance, every kind of insurance that you can think of. You have all this stuff. And then you ask me to do your job for you. Well, why are you here? Why elect people? And this is another thing. Why elect people who do not have the public's best interest in mind? Think about it. Well, we got to vote blue no matter who, right? But they don't care about you. You've seen that. You know that. I mean, this is not something that is that's uncommon. It's not something that's just not known. You know that these people don't care about you because of the way that they're acting. I mean, you have this whole thing of, we've been talking about affordable housing for a while. I mean, you have these companies who are trying to buy up all these single family homes, and they're trying to turn them into, what is it? Single family renting institution or something like that. Single family renting, where you'll never be able to own anything, like own a home, unless you are one of those people who have money like that. And it's just everything. It's the policies, it's the people. And it's like, if you guys actually gave, a F, then we wouldn't have as much of the problems that we have today, right? But, I'm like, okay, we got all these things that's happening. We know what really started a lot of it. Well, what can be done? I want you to take a moment and think what could really be done and what has been done, right? So you have a lot of programs, non-for-profit and whatnot that are, they're doing like, they have little programs, whatnot. They have the little charities, non-profit, whatever. And, they're donating clothes, they're donating this, they're donating that, which is great. I'm actually trying to be a part of that as well. I have a business called Latrice Limited. And, I sell like, candles, beauty and wellness products, essentially. So I have like a sister company, I guess you could say, where it's called Latrice Unlimited. So Latrice Unlimited is, just the philanthropy portion of it, where a percentage of the proceeds from Latrice Limited will go to Latrice Unlimited, and it'll actually be for the homelessness in Austin, Texas. So it's just to, it's like little care packages and whatnot that I'll do. Once I get up to a certain number, then I'll make X amount of care packages, whatever. And these are all great. Okay, obviously I'm doing it too. But these are all great. But these are just a Band-Aid, a small Band-Aid on a giant cut. Okay, so it's not like, it's helpful. Yes, we need soap, we need towels, they need a tissue, paper towel, not paper towels, but you know what I mean, like toothpaste, toothbrushes, all that. Great. They need the essentials, they need water, they need food. Got food banks, great. But what else are you going to do? We need housing. People can't just be living on the street. They can't literally on the street. We can't have that happening. So people need housing. They need institutions where they can get services for their mental health. Well, my job provides mental health. Well, if they don't have a job, well, how are they going to get it? That doesn't work that way. That's why you shouldn't have anything tied to your employer. It just shouldn't be like that. But, so you have this whole idea of, we need the affordable housing. We need housing, period, for them. You have, and I actually know there's this guy up in Texas, I think in Austin too, who he's making like 3D homes and whatnot, like concrete or whatever, which is great. But you need housing. You need to increase the minimum wage. You need to strengthen unions. And I don't want to get into that right now. But you want to strengthen unions. You want to make it so that, you have services that are free to the public for mental health, because a lot of that as well is why people are doing what they're doing. You need to have a, reform or some kind of thing for drugs that are coming in and how to deal with them. What is the solution for that? But moving on, we actually have a, guess you can call it a solution in Austin. So in Austin, you have, well, not just in Austin, but like in a lot of different cities across the U.S. I mean, you obviously, like I said, have homeless people living on the street. So you have a lot of these encampment areas where it's just a whole bunch of just like tents and, shopping carts and all that. And they're just like in these large areas. Okay. I'm actually tell you a story for when I went. It was actually, I want to say about 2 months ago when I went to downtown Austin. So when I went to downtown Austin, I just went down there for like a little mini vacation, get away and, just feel a little normal. So I went downtown, and I was like, I gotta go to, I think I had to go to Target or something. Because my boyfriend, he went to the gym, whatever. I just came back from the gym. I'm like, I'm not going back to the gym. And I was like, he said he needs to go to Target. So I was like, you know what, let me go and, put in a GPS where things are. Because I don't know if you've been down there, but pretty much everything is pretty close. For the most part, things are like in walking distance, close. So I was like, okay. And they were like, oh, well, from where you are right now, it's only a 9-minute walk. And I was like, oh, it's only 9 minutes? Oh, okay, well, I'm already dressed. Let me just go in, put my shoes on and let's go, right? So I go outside or whatnot, following GPS, and some of the areas, never gonna lie, man, I was walking and I'm like, wow, this area is, it looks it's sketchy, It didn't look like the lawns were cut. You had like graffiti on the wall, and I'm like, wow, okay. Let's just keep going. Let's keep going. So I'm walking and whatnot, and then the GPS says like it's like this like the viaduct. It's not a bridge, but it's like a viaduct kind of thing, where like how you have like the main just road. And then you got one that goes up and, all that stuff. But then you have like that little under area, which I believe is called viaduct. But then you have that area. And then they were like, oh, you got to pass it. Like, you got to go through it. And I was like, oh, I don't mind going through a main intersection. Not that bad. But I was like, go through it. And I'm looking. I'm like, where am I going through? I'm like, I don't see anything. And I was like, from what I see over there, that doesn't look like Alex is going through that. So I was like, okay, well, let me make a left. And I was like, I could just go down further or whatever. Because how it was, you couldn't make a right. If you went a right, you would have been walking for about 10 more minutes because there's no way for you to get across. You know what I mean? If you could even get across. So I was like, okay, let me go make a left. Let me go do my walking over here. And then I'll go at the next time that they say to make a turn, right? So, so I go make the left. And then I see it was like a huge, just homeless encampment area. Like it was, if I had to count how many tents there were, it was at least 30 to 35, at least. Like, and it was packed. That entire zone was packed. And then you had, people over there and, some, they're how they were standing. Some didn't look like they were actually like living there. I don't know. It didn't look safe. Let me just say that. So I'm like, they're not. I was like, the GPS telling me. I was like, oh, no. Maybe I'm tripping, right? And then I asked GPS, and GPS like, no, you have to go past this. And I'm like, what? Because apparently you have to go past it, and then you walk for like 2 minutes and Target's right there. And I'm like, yo, I'm not doing that, right? I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't feel safe doing that. Because anything could happen, you know what I mean? You got a whole bunch of people there. Like I said, everything that the stigma that you have. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. So now I was like, I'm going to just go to, it was this museum that I just decided to go to. But it really makes you nervous. You know what I mean? Made me nervous. And one, I also don't like going places by myself, really, unless it's like to the grocery store or something. That I don't mind. But other places I kind of mind because you just don't know. Now there's a whole bunch of robberies that are happening where people are carjacking, you obviously have like the rape and the assault that happens. And I was like, I can't do that, right? And I remember another story was actually, so I watched these people on YouTube called Double Toasted. Really fun. I highly recommend that you watch them. So I'm watching them or whatnot, and they're actually telling me, well, not telling me, but, they're telling us a story about when they went downtown Austin and whatnot. And, there were, homeless people, whatnot, and everything. So they were over here saying that, they went downtown and, there was, I believe in California, they call it brown spots, where it's literal just, it's shit. It's just human feces just there on the ground. You know what I mean? And like you have, it's just human shit, literally. And like you could step in it. And that goes with the disease and the uncleanliness of that. And that's also why homelessness, there needs to be something done to help end it, because you have just the unsanitary manners of it, because that's gross. Human shit is, it's human shit. Let's be real. One of them was saying, the wife was over here saying how the dog like stepped in it. And it was just like, so, you have that, and Austin gets hot. Texas is a hot state for most of the year. So imagine the scent of it. And you have some people who were even, very just mentally ill. Like you could tell that they were saying that, you had people talking to themselves. And in my experience that I had, that even happened. That too happened. Where I was coming back. I was actually coming back from the museum. And there was, on one side, it was like these guys, and I knew I had to pass by them, it was some guys that were like on this side. And so I'm on this sidewalk, and there's another sidewalk, and I'm going this way, and my hotel is all the way over here. So I had to go over here. So I'm like, I'm not about to cross right here. One, because it wasn't an intersection, at all. I would have been doing jaywalking. I don't like doing that. So I was like, okay, so I'm not going to do that for that reason. And two, there's some sketchy looking people over here. Like, I don't know if they were homeless or not. They didn't look like it, but they just didn't look on the up and up, in my opinion. I'm not even going to lie. They just didn't look on the up and up. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to go and cross this way. I was like, okay, I'm going to go straight. And then once I get to the intersection, then I'm going to make a right, then go straight, make a right. Okay. So, and because if I would have went straight all the way down, then it would have been, then I would have had to have an encounter with some other sketchy looking individual. And mind you, this is on, I believe I was on 6th Street. So if y'all know anything about 6th Street, y'all know. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to go over there. I'm going to just go over here. So my goal is come out, go straight, right, and, just cross the street and make a right. So I could avoid all of this. So right when I'm about to get to the little intersection, there's this guy that's like, hey, yo, miss. And he literally says it like, I think he said, hey, yo, miss, like, or hey, miss, whatever, like 5 or 6 times. And I was like, because one thing about me, I don't like people bothering me when I'm doing anything. If I'm doing something, I don't really like being bothered. So I was like, hey, yo, miss. And I like slightly looked over, but hoping the light was just going to hurry up and turn green. And then it turned green. And then I like slightly looked over, and then it's like, hey, yo, well, can I get some? I was like, I don't have any. And then it was like, he was like wanting to follow me as I crossed the street. I think he actually did follow me because I had to go cross here and then I had to go straight and then so I could make my other turn. So I had to do 2 crosses. And then he was like there, and then the light turned green. I was like, yes, I didn't run or anything, but, I sped walk, but I'm like, bruh, like, I don't like people bothering me, and this guy, he actually was homeless. And I was like, I just, it's the stigma that you have, but it's also like, we need to help these people out. We need to help them so that they're not on the street. 1, harassing people, and 2, so they could just, live a better, productive life, So that was my whole little shebang or whatever about my experience with them down in Austin. And I'm actually going to show you guys a video about, it's going to be the homelessness, the encampments in Austin. So I have this video. I'm gonna go enlarge it real quick, make sure the sound's up. Yeah. So just listen to it. It's only like it's 1:48, so you're good.
Starting today, the camping ban laws are stricter.
The phase 2 of the city's plan now takes effect.
KB's Marty Salazar joins us live from downtown with the story. Marty, what's next in the phased approach?
So Jenny, Jake, now police officers can walk up to people camping in some areas. They can give them a written warning, and they can also give them a ticket. So for the last month, they've been educating people about the new laws. That was phase 1, which are you can't camp, sit, or lie down in downtown or the University of Texas campus areas. And you can't solicit at specific hours and locations. As far as these tickets go, if someone violated these camping laws, they can get a citation up to $500. If that person is unable to pay the fine, the Austin Municipal Court judges will try to find alternatives to the fine, such as community service work. We spoke with Save Austin Now, who started a campaign to pass Prop B. As phase 2 takes effect, they say they're frustrated the city hasn't come up with a solution yet.
I think it's time for the city council to actually have the backbone and say, okay, we made a decision. These will be the locations for the campgrounds, or we will erect a temporary shelter like we've done for hurricane victims. Because I do believe we're at that point where we have a humanitarian crisis.
Save Austin Now says they're even more concerned now since it's getting hot outside, possibly putting lives in danger if people are living on the streets with nowhere to go. The next phase does start in July, and that means that officers can start to arrest people if they are camping in areas and refuse to leave. Jenny, Jake, back to you.
All right, so I'm actually going to speed it up in certain areas, but there's that, and I'm gonna speed it up in certain areas, and I'm gonna give my commentary for that. I just didn't want to have to keep stopping the video, and then you're getting some, butchered stuff.
Sarah Jones is live from downtown with the story. Marty, what's next in the phased approach?
So Jenny, Jake, now police officers can walk up to people camping in some areas. They can give them a written warning, and they can also give them a ticket. So,
all right. So right now, what you're having, and this is the news for Austin. So what you're having is you're having police officers be able to come up to you. You're homeless. More likely, you don't have a job. Okay, you may, but you may not. Okay, so you're homeless. Let's say you don't have a job, which most of them don't, and besides panhandling or something. And you're saying that I can just, me as a cop, can come to you, give you a piece of paper and say, here's your first warning. If you mess up again, I'm gonna fine you. So it's like, okay, you give me a warning for not being here. Then you say you are going to fine me, but one isn't adding up with the other. How am I going to pay for it? What are you going to do? How many tickets does it take before you're just like, yeah, so now we're going to arrest you. You know what I mean? They can't afford it. So you're going to find someone who cannot afford to even pay the fine. That doesn't make any sense.
for the last month, they've been educating people about the new laws. That was phase 1.
Oh, yeah. So that's also something I wanted to mention. So this is phase 2 in Austin's homeless camping ban. But in phase 1, so they had different areas that they were targeting. So it's not like necessarily, oh, I don't like this person, I'm going to target their area. No, it was certain areas in Austin, downtown, that's where you have the University of Texas at Austin as well. And, they want the students to also not have to deal with that. But because I know with my school on the campus, I did not see any at all, like any homeless people at all. Like they cut that out. There were some on the outskirts, but I didn't see any like actually on the campus. But I personally didn't see any. They may have been, but I didn't see any. But yeah, so the main thing is like in phase 1, what they were doing certain areas. So maybe one area was untouched for that portion of time, but the other area was. So when I say the other area was touched, you had, I was watching this video where the police officers, they were literally like with couches. They had like this truck that it wasn't just like a garbage truck, but this thing was like breaking down whatever it was, like the tents and whatnot, the couches. It was like literally destroying them as it was going in, whatever that thing is called. But yeah, so like they were legit like, yo, you knew this was coming, and they just took all their stuff. So that was phase 1, and this is phase 2.
Which are you can't camp, sit, or lie down in downtown.
And as you see, she said you can't camp, sit, or lie down in downtown. As you see right here is just 1, 2, 3, 4. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 just right here. You have people who are laying down. You have people who are camping. What are you gonna do? You're gonna issue them a citation and say, "Oh, well, you're not supposed to be camping here." What are you gonna be doing? There's only so much you can do. Without giving them housing. Giving them housing and giving them services so that they would not be doing this. Do you honestly think most people want to be doing this? Oh, man.
or the University of Texas.
Even right here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think 11 there. Wow. This is a lot. From what I was seeing, I'm not seeing the exact picture. Like I said, it was like a little viaduct and whatnot. And it was like that, but it was worse. It was just like all just packed and jam-packed in that area, because that area is where a lot of that shade is. I mean, it's right under one of the roads, so it's a lot of shade in that area.
Campus areas, and you can solicit at specific hours and locations. As far as these tickets go, if someone violated these camping laws, they can get a citation up to $500.
Hey, you violated. We're gonna issue a citation up to $500. Okay, if I have $500, you think I would be, sitting here? If I have $500 every month, let's just say, you think I would be sitting here? Really? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you can afford, because you can't afford a house, you can't afford even rent with that. But you would be going somewhere else. You know what I mean? If you were able to have that and try to save that up as much as possible.
If that person is unable to pay the fine, the Austin Municipal Court judges will try to find alternatives to the fine, such as community service work. We spoke with Save Austin now.
Well, why don't you just have them do that? Period. Provide them with housing, since you're saying, if you can't afford that, which most people can't, provide them with housing, and then you have them work. Community service will have them work and provide them with housing. Even if it's some kind of shelter area where, I don't know, if there's 30 beds or something, why don't you just do that? I mean, let's skip the middleman. Let's just hop to what it is.
Who started a campaign to pass Prop B. As Phase 2 takes effect, they say they're frustrated the city hasn't come up with a solution yet.
I think it's time for the city council to actually have the backbone and say, okay, we made a decision. These will be the locations for the campgrounds, or we will erect a temporary shelter like we've done for hurricane victims. Because I do believe we're at that point where we have a humanitarian crisis.
Save Austin now says they're even more concerned now since it's getting hot outside, possibly putting lives in danger if people are living on the streets with nowhere to go. The next phase does start in July, and that means that officers can start to arrest people if they are camping in areas and refuse to leave. Jenny, Jake, back to you.
And then now you have this idea of people are now going to be arrested for doing that, when you could give them housing, maybe if it's a certain area of campground or whatever, but in a facility would be hopeful, would be the hopeful option. You do that, and then you said, oh, I'll have them work, do community service. Well, have them do that. Now you're getting free labor, because that's what that is. You get free labor, and they're now getting housing for it. It could be an exchange, something like that. One thing. Or you could even pay them to do community service. How about some of that? How about even if you pay them, even if it's just the $7.25, which in all honesty, it should be way higher than that. But let's just say it's a $7.25. You pay them that, at least they'll have something, It means at least they'll be making something. That's the main thing with that. I just don't, that's where I'm at with that. The next thing I have, and let me know what you guys think, what your opinion on it. What is a solution you guys would possibly have? Another thing I don't get is this. You have, this large homeless situation that's been happening for years. Okay. It's not like it's something new, not something that just popped up in 20 years. It's been happening for years. It has been here for years. Okay. So you have that. And then it's like, okay, well, what could be done? We don't have any money to do this. We can't do this. We don't know what to do. Oh my God. And it's like, well, didn't Biden just get however many $1 billion for military stuff? And he can't just put a little bit over here and end homelessness? We can't do that. We got to keep having war And wasn't it just $1 billion, or was it, I want to say it was $1 billion that Biden just gave to Israel for, to bomb, I believe that just happened like yesterday. Yesterday it was on my feed anyways. And he just gave money so that they can have more weapons and bomb people. But we don't have enough money we don't have $1 billion to even help homeless people. Come on. And that's the thing about this country. It's so backwards. It's just completely backwards with literally everything. It's just 100% backwards, man. And I mean, that's just really the main problem with it. But we got to do something. But right now we're going to shift our focus to this whole situation with the Texas power grid. Now, for the people who don't know what has happened, it was actually for us, for me and my boyfriend here, it was February 15th of 2021. Today is actually June 17th. Okay. So this happened February 15th, and the power grid was almost completely shut down. I think they had 3 or 4 more minutes if they didn't get the power back up, or it would have been a complete shutdown. Like complete shutdown. Like it's not like it would have, in 2 days it would have come back. No, it would have been like in a month it would have gotten back, So that's one of the biggest issues. So depending on what area you were in and, all of that, location and whatnot, if you had a generator, which like many people did not, your power was out for a while. So I actually remember this day exactly. So I'm just, because I'm like, okay, I got to go to work, right? And I need my computer for it. So I work from home. So, but I was like, okay, I got to go to work today, and I got to, I got my computer, whatever. So I wake up and I'm like, woo. And I don't know, it was weird this day, because this day I think I woke up probably 40 minutes before I had to go to work, which was odd. I usually wake up, like when I say wake up, I mean like get out of my bed, wake up. And I got up about 40 minutes before I had to actually go to work, right? Meanwhile, any regular day, I'm not gonna lie, I wake up 3 minutes before I get out of my bed 3 minutes before I got to clock in, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, wow, it's like unusually cold in here. I was like, I know it's a bit chilly. I was like, I know it's cold outside, seeing that it was snowing and whatnot. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I'm like, wow, it's like really, really cold today. So I look around, I'm like, what is going on? So I come out the room, and my boyfriend, he's like sitting on the couch, and he's like, the power's out. And I'm like, the power's out? I was like, oh no, we can't do that. So I'm like, the power can't be out because I gotta go to work. So I'm like, oh man. So I'm looking, power is like, it's out. People have put in power outages. A lot of people put in power outages. And I'm like, whoa, like what's going on, man? I was like, you know what? And the power, it started to do like this weird flicker. It would be on, be off, on, off. And it got on. And I was like, wow, all right. And I looked outside. It was snow. If I'm not mistaken, it was snow. And I think there was ice during this time. Yeah, it was snow and ice. And I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. So I was like, okay, I'm not coming in today. I can't, there's no power, nothing, right? And I was like, okay, maybe this is just us, but this is so weird. I was like, this is not a good time for this to happen. It's like freezing. And then that's when I found out it was everyone, literally everyone. So I'm like, man, for us, it lasted for 3 days it lasted for 3 days for us. But we had to go to a hotel, what was it? It was, some mid to lower level hotel, like a, comfort suites or something like that. So we had to go there, and like we went and called. We were like, yo, can we get, I think we even said, let's just get 3 days or something like that. And they were like, okay, cool. But this was before everyone and their mama had the same idea that we had, because by the time we got there, they were like, yeah, you're good to go, whatever, your room. But they were like, yeah, so hopefully you're not planning on staying any more than 3 nights because they were like, because we're booked. And the call other places, everyone was booked, right? Because people didn't have power, so we're like, oh man. So what it was in Texas, the power grid fell, and I'll explain all that later. But with us, we're like, okay, we gotta go, we gotta get out of here, right? It was snow and ice. Yeah, it was snow and ice. It was like, when I say it was snow and ice, because I'm originally from Illinois, okay? So snow and ice ain't snow and ice. We know it's gonna happen, whatever, got my coat, whatever, who cares, right? Snow and ice here it was not the same. And the reason why is because they were not prepared for it. So what I mean by that is, like, one, we didn't even have shovels. We weren't even prepared for it. Almost no one had a generator. There was no shovels, right? So I'm like, man, what are we gonna do? Because I wasn't expecting snow. Okay, I'm gonna be real. I was not expecting snow. So I'm like, okay, man, this is insane. So I go, and we're like, yo, we gotta go, and he was, something was going on in his car, whatever. And I was like, you're gonna have to take my car. My car is a new car, really. Got it in 2019. It was 2020. And I was like, okay, so my car is fine. It barely has any miles on it, really. I was like, come on, let's do mine. I was like, okay, cool. So we're driving the car. It's ice all on our driveway, ice and, snow. Ice all on the block. I'm like, dang. Then we're like, okay, maybe it's just because the snow plow, because from Illinois, 4 o'clock, 3 a.m., they got the snow plow machines putting that salt all over the roads. So there's none of this, right? Now I'm like, okay, well, it's going to look better, right? Go out, almost no one's out. Like, it was almost no one. And we look, and it was ice everywhere. I've never seen anything like this before. It was ice literally on the main road. And I'm like, oh my goodness, right? You had a few people here and there, but it was nothing like what it usually is, right? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And everything, the car is sliding, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't have an all-wheel drive. I was like, no snow tires. The thing, I needed this stuff, right? No shovel in the back. He had like a little mini one, but the mini one, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God. So we're like, you know what? We're just gonna have to do what we gotta do or whatnot. And we were like, okay, well, we gotta get something to eat. First, check into the place, get something to eat. So we checked into the hotel, whatever. Then we were like, okay, we got to find somewhere to eat. Nothing was open. And understandable. Nothing was open. The only thing that was open was, after we passed like 10 to 12 gas stations, only like 2 were open, right? And they had like snacks, unhealthy junk. But you had to eat something, right? So I remember I got these bugles. And the bugles where, like, if you're a kid, like, they're like the little cones and you put them on your fingers. That's what I got. I got that, and I got like some oatmeal cream pies and whatever, right? I had a terrible stomach ache the next day. It's terrible. But I'm like, okay, whatever with it. And that's all we had. And then I was, we were looking, they were like, HEB, that's our grocery store. They were like, we'll be open. I'm like, HEB coming in clutch, right? Like, thank goodness. And we went, and then, we had to come back to the house, try to see, because we were hearing that people's electricity was going on and off, like, because I later found out they were doing like this rotation where they'll put yours on, everyone else's will be off, and then they'll turn yours off, then put theirs on, and then keep going, and they'll just keep rotating it all around. So we're like, okay, well, we could go to HEB first, right? We left too late, I guess you can say. And the line for HEB was just, it was insane. I've never seen anything like this before, because it was just wrapping around. It wrapped. So you had the building of HEB. And if you ever seen HEB before, been to HEB, HEBs are huge. Okay, this is some big grocery stores. Okay, so you had an HEB, and then it was wrapped around the building and wrapped like 5 stores down the line. And of course they were limiting what you could get, so water was the main thing, so you couldn't go in there and be like, oh, I'm gonna buy 10 cases of water. No, you could leave out with 1, or like the 2, like these kind of size waters, or you can leave out with 2 of those, but you can't, like, you know what I mean? You can't be getting a whole bunch. You can't be hoarding stuff like what people do with these toilet tissues and toilet paper. So they were like, okay, so you guys go and get that. And we're like, okay. But I was looking, I was like, man, this line is insane. I'm like, there's not going to be anything in there. By the time you get in there, it's not going to be anything. So then we didn't go. So then we were like, okay, well, you know what? We're just going to go. We're just going to find another place to eat, whatever. And we managed to get something. It was like this Italian food, whatever. It was them, and I think maybe another person that were open. So then we're like, okay, we're like, well, we gotta have something. I remember Taco Bell was open. That line had like 40 cars, and it was wrapped around, and I was like, yo, that's not happening, right? Because I will say I do enjoy a nice bean burrito from them, but you gotta have mild sauce. You gotta pour it all on there, or it's not good. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that's not gonna happen. And so we got the food, we went back, because the thing about it is you did not want to be out on those roads, because those roads were not salted at all. There was no salt on those roads. There was no plow trucks, nothing. There was no pickup truck. As many pickup trucks that are in Texas, and none of them had the shovel on it. And that's what I was seeing in Illinois all the time. People had these pickup trucks, they'll have the shovel, and then they're shoveling this stuff. There was nothing. So I was like, oh my God. I was like, you guys, what? Like, this is insanity. It was insanity. Then they put like this weird water salt mixture thing, and you're putting water on roads and it's freezing temperatures. What are you doing? And they're like, oh, I was talking to someone, they were like, oh, well, because if you put this water mixture on there, then the water doesn't melt or something like that. And I'm like, okay, but what happens if it gets to this temperature? Oh, well, I mean, then the water would come into effect. So you put in water on that. This doesn't make any sense. I was like, yo, it makes no sense to me. So I was like, yo, this is crazy. So the next day we ended up actually going to the grocery store. We got some groceries or whatnot. Some things, pretty much almost nothing was open. And then, we went back, and then the electricity was still off. But by this time or whatnot, the 3 days has already passed. And I'm like, yo, you couldn't get another day. So we're like, man, what the heck, right? So then we go back, we wait. It was like, I think like an hour passed or something. The power just came on, but then it came off, then it went off. And then it finally came on. I don't know how many hours later, but it finally came on and we were good, right? So I'm like, bruh, all of this could have been prevented. If you would just, and I'm going to get to it, but it was just insane. Just the look of everything. Everything was just white. It was just, oh my God, it was so much ice everywhere. It was insane. Even getting out of the hotel room and getting into my car, because I'm in the hotel room and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go remote start my car, right? Because I was like, okay, I could remote start it. get the car warmed up because it is cold. My thing is like, nah, we ain't even starting today. And I'm like, what? What's going on? And then we were like, okay, maybe because it's the ice. Okay. So we get to the car. It's cold outside, right? We get to the car, and then my doors are not opening at all. Like, it's ice because, snowing and all that. So all that water and then the temperature, it froze all the ice on the car. So you can't even open up the car. Then you had the ice. It was literally my car was literally like, it was an ice cube, literally, right? And I'm like, bruh, we can't even open up the door. What's going to happen? And there was ice on all the windows and the mirrors and everything. So then we're just like, he's on one side, I'm on the other. We're just like, you're just jerking this door. We're like, you better fucking open up, right? So we finally get it. It's just like a little piece. And then I'm like, I got my hand, my fingers, and I'm just like, trying to get that ice off, right? Without damaging the car. Then we finally get that door open. I'm like, okay. I was like, let me get in, and you get on the driver's side, and I'm gonna push this door open. So we had to just pry this door open, right? It was insanity. So then we were trying to because the trunk wouldn't open either. So we had to put stuff in the back seat because the trunk was much more difficult to get that open. So we're like, dang. So we got to get the back seats and, prying this stuff open. It was just insanity. But yeah, so all this stuff happened, and, we finally got back, and it was a normal, it got back to normal, whatever. But I'm like, yo, what the heck? And then we get back, and because we were following the news the entire time we were in the hotel anyways. And then I get back, and I'm like, yo, well, we can't use this water, right? We were buying some bottled water at, certain places. Bottled water, $3, by the way. And I'm like, come on, y'all. Because I need to buy 5, 10 of these. I can't be spending $3 for each bottle of water. So I'm like, dang. And then we couldn't use our water it was on a boil water notice, right? But you don't really want to drink that stuff. So you know what I mean? You don't want to really drink it or cook with that stuff. I used it for just taking a shower or whatnot. And that was it. I had to do little wipe offs and whatnot and, whatever. But I'm like, bruh, yeah, I couldn't use the water for, I think, a week and a half, something like that. But we're just boiling this water. It was so annoying. Oh my God. It was so annoying. I just had to keep, constantly boil. And I was done, right? So, long story short, that was my experience with the Texas power grid and the messed ups that happened, right? So, our main thing, we're doing our research. We're trying to figure out, why did this happen? Comes down to the limiting of regulation on the power companies. So, Texas does not just have a lot of other areas have this one power company, whatever. But Texas has so many different ones. And there's all of these different, or I guess lack of regulation for them, right? There's, the state is not requiring them to, the companies, to upgrade their equipment. You know how you get the routine tests, okay, yeah, this needs to be upgraded, or you can't, you're going to be out of business because you're not following code, whatever. There was none of that. There's absolutely none of that. So that was one of the big issues too, because there's no regulation and you're not requiring people to do what it is that they're supposed to be doing. And then it was up in, because Texas actually has something similar to this in 2011, where, Texas knew they needed to be winterized. But they, before they were like, oh, whatever, we're Texas, whatever, right? In 2011, it was something similar to what happened, but not as much apparently. And it was frozen gas wells, coal plants, wind turbines, everything, right? And nothing could be done. So then you had, areas that, everyone was affected by it. But after that day, or I guess after that period of time in 2011, yes, certain areas, and this is actually what I want to show you later on. Which one is it? But this is what I want to show you about. It's a little chart here that I actually want to show you. Hopefully you guys can see that. Yes. And this was of what happened before, what I told you, and what happened now. So they have different colors and they tell you, okay, well, this is the people who lost power. People in the gray had no outages, right? So you have over here, you have the El Paso and the Hudspeth County. You have little areas over here. And I really like this. So I'm going to link, this is the texastribute.org. I'm going to link all the links that I've used for this kind of video. I'm going to put them all in the description box. So you guys can look at this and play around with it and, you know, get more of an understanding of what happened, who was affected, you know, so you can actually look for yourself. You got some areas up here. You got some areas over here. But this is one of the big areas. This area, El Paso area, you got the Newton County over here. You got these areas. And if you look, like, you got the Austin here, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth, all of this. So I looked and I'm like, well, how is that possible? How is it that not every area is this dark blue, this medium, you know, just regular blue? Or why is it not in a shade of blue? Why is it gray, right? Why is it gray, or even at like a high, at a very, very low, faint blue or green? I was like, how do you even get that, right? Well, after 2011, people, you know, in that area, they were like, well, we got to winterize our system. You know, we got to make it for the winter, got to make it for the summer, make it so that when we get hit with these kind of catastrophes, that nothing like this will happen again. That's what that is. Because if you look, like I said, I'm from Illinois. Okay. If you look, there's you may have a blackout here and there, you know, some stuff, but it wasn't due to like weather for us. You know what I mean? Like winter, we never went without power. You know, there was none of this. There was, like I said, they did the streets. They had this. They had, you know, they winterized everything. There's so many places because most places get a lot of snow. You know, but you being Texas, you want to separate and have your own little thing, thinking that you're not a part of the United States. And then you have, you know, you don't regulate as much as you really should be regulating. And then this is what happens. And I mean, we see that in this map. Let me see if I can give you the whole thing. Yeah, here we go. In that map, almost everyone was affected. And then you have the people on the side and you have some people in this area. Yes, you have some people in this area, but then you have these people over here and people over here. Okay, now you can also say it's possibly because of population, but there are certain areas that's only of one. But there are a lot of areas that, like right here, this one, 93%, Houston area. You have the Austin area. You have Laredo. You got Corpus Christi. I mean, there's a lot, you know, and it's like, why, if you guys know that this has happened in 2011, why would you guys not make an effort to, I don't know, winterize your systems? So you could try to prevent this from happening. And I actually have an article here. Let me see. Let me turn them off. I actually have an article here where it says, why didn't Texas power plants winterize after 2011 storms? All right. And I'm going to read a little snippet of it here and there. And if you, like I said, if you want to read it, I have like the full thing. I'll put it in the comments. You can't get any further west in Texas than the sharp point of the map known as El Paso, right? And this is El Paso right here. Where am I at? It says, when a major winter storm hit Texas in 2011, El Paso went dark. A federal report revealed El Paso Electric lost all 8 of its power generators during that storm. This is talking about in 2011. It took the power utility 3 days to get the units running. El Paso's low temperatures dipped to 14 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 days and didn't rise above freezing for 6 nights during the February 2021 week storm. Under a blanket of snow and ice, the lights stayed on this time. Someone said, I think from El Paso Electric and all of its employees, this was personal. And we made a commitment in 2011 that we said, we're never going to let this happen again. Now, why is it that this isn't a statewide thing? Why is it that you got people in El Paso that are like, yeah, we're not gonna have this happen again because, this could be deadly for people, as we have seen that in Texas. This one is from March 25th, which was last month. At least 111 people died in Texas. A lot from hypothermia, but then you also have some that were from, quite a few that were from carbon monoxide poisoning because they're trying to stay warm. There's actually a case that I'll get to in a little bit about that. But it said the electric utility spent $4.5 million to winterize 2 of its older power plants. This process took EPE 18 months to finish. Well, why can't you do that? It says it said the electric utility spent $4.5 million to winterize 2 of its older power plants. I was just watching a news story today of Abbott and what. So this whole building the wall thing, right? So you have everyone talking about, oh, we got to build this wall, we got to do this, we got to do that, whatever. Well, I was actually watching the video, and it said that for 1 mile of the wall, it cost them, I believe it said $24 million to make 1 mile of the wall. It costs around $24 million for 1 mile of a wall. Meanwhile, this article is saying the electric utility spent $4.5 million, not $20 million, not $24 million, not $5 million, but $4.5 to winterize 2 of its older power plants. So why can't you do that? Why would you spend money on this, let's get the wall, when we still have issues with the power grid? Because I'm even now on the news, and this is June 17th of 2021. Even now on the news, they're telling you, put your thermostats up to 78 degrees, which, that's a bit hot in my opinion. And it's 95 outside. You're telling me to put my stuff at, 78 degrees. Oh, we'll start unplugging stuff and do this because we got to save power because our grid is still messed up. Meanwhile, you're doing that, but you have enough money for this. And it's like, how are you able to pay for that, but you can't pay for this? And this is something that killed at least 111 people. Because, what's the reasoning for it? And that's why I'm going to continue with this article. All right. So we got this part that says natural gas failures last month were blamed for several of the power plant's failures inside the ERCOT grid. A pair of executives from Dallas area power utilities told lawmakers the state power sectors relies too heavily on natural gas to power generator plant. Oh yeah, and then they were over here trying to say that it was because of green energy or something like that. They're like, because of wind turbines and that's what caused it. Like that was their initial thing. And it's like, That doesn't even make any sense. What are you even talking about? But here just tells you about, the natural gas, how much of it is, fueling and whatnot. I recommend reading this full article. Like I said, I'll link it down below because this is insane. But what I wanted to go talk about was this. It says when ERCOT issued its power curtailment order in the early morning hours of February 15th, like that's what I said happened, utilities companies across the state started pulling the plug from homes and businesses. Lovelock wasn't one of those places. The ERCOT grid covers most of Texas. Only 41 of the state's 254 counties do not fall under their power grid, which I want to say I was out of it, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't remember. It says El Paso is the largest county outside of it. And we see everything that's happening with it. A lot of it is political. A lot of it is, hey, I want to make my money and I want you guys to make some money, and corruption. I mean, that's really what it falls down to, because if you really cared about it and you really cared about people and how to prevent all this stuff and how to just have a better, more unified state, then you would have done what they did in 2011, which is winterize after the storms. Why would you only have a part over here and a part over here and some parts maybe here that have winterized it, and most of you guys have not? Texas is not like it's a tiny state by far. It's a huge state and it has a lot of people. Okay, so that's something that I really don't understand. But there was this story. It was actually heartbreaking, where they were talking about this little boy. So it's this little boy. He was 11 years old, and I believe the story said that he was living like with his family, like in a mobile home. And it's freezing. Like I said, the hotels, booked, they were packed. There was, you couldn't do anything. So they're in there or whatnot. Look, right now it's 89 and it's only 11:43 a.m. Okay. And that's in Houston. So he was living in the mobile home with his family. It was freezing. Everyone was freezing. They said he died of carbon monoxide poisoning, and not what people thought, which was hypothermia, but it was the carbon monoxide poisoning. Because he was trying to stay warm, his family was trying to keep him warm, keep everyone warm, and he ended up dying because of that. This could have been prevented if everything were to have already been winterized in 2011, and you could stop pretending like you were some different place. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they make it seem like they're just some different, just offset state that, we're not a part of, the US or anything like that. But you are. If everyone else is following these rules, you need to be following them as well. Have more legislation, have more regulation. That's what needs to happen. I mean, there's nothing else you can say besides just that. There's nothing else you can say besides just that. Oh, and then what also aided in it was the fact that as electricity bills, as people were out of electricity, their power was not on, this and that, and the third, you then had, and this one is from prior to everything, but you then had electric companies that were like, even though you didn't have power, they were forcing like the increase that they were getting from their electric or whatever, and they were putting the cost on you. So if your regular bill was, let's say your regular bill was $150, I don't know, you were now paying like $300. I mean, this stuff was on the news where people were like, yo, like, there's no reason why I should be paying this much, and I didn't even have any power, and it's just really, it's just really interesting. And also another thing I thought was not funny, but that was interesting was there's this picture that shows downtown Austin. That's what it was. Downtown Austin. It was a picture that was shown, and it was half of it was black and the other was not. So let me see if I can actually pull that up for you. If I can pull it up, see if it's going to load or not. Yeah, it's not even trying to load right now. But it was this picture where it was like half of the area was like pitch black and the other half had power, right? And it's like, how is that even? Oh, so now Google wants to work. Half black. All right, let's see what we get if they want to stop playing. But it was like this picture where half of it, there was power, and the other half, there was no power at all. Let me see. I don't know what's going on. The internet's like really slow. And I noticed that's also another thing where it's like really, really, really slow. And I don't know why it's acting like that. But this picture, I actually found it. But the other one was like you got to see it like head on, like straight up. You can actually see what it looked like. But yeah, I mean, you have half of it, there's no power. And then the other half is just powered up. And a lot of it were like businesses and all that. And then it's like, okay, you look and it's like, okay, you're telling me about this. Let me see if they got the picture in here. It looks similar to this, but this wasn't the actual pic. Yeah. So I got to see it from like split in between here. So you have here where it's all black. And you got over there where it was all like, and it was like all businesses and all this and that and a third. And it's like, well, how is it that we're being told to conserve energy? We're being told to conserve energy. Oh, well, unplug, toaster ovens, unplug this, unplug that. Or you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And then I'm looking and I'm like, okay, but how are you gonna tell me to do that? And I'm looking at you guys, and you guys are literally just wasting energy. How are you gonna tell me that I have to do this and you're not doing that yourself? That's just this whole thing that I don't really understand too much and I don't really get. But I mean, something has to change. I mean, you need to, and this is with everyone in politics, this is everyone in general. Everyone needs to start caring about the people that they're serving. I mean, if you're not going to be serving the people, my opinion is this: why are you even here? If you're not going to do what it is that you are supposed to be doing, you're campaigning on certain things, you're not doing it. You're supposed to be in a position of power that you can do. You can help people out, and you choose not to. That's something I just don't get, and I don't get why you would be okay with doing said thing. But yeah, that's what I got for today. Is this homeless situation that needs to be mediated and needs to be fixed. You can't just be finding people and arresting people, and that just is not going to work. And then we have this crazy power grid situation that we're even still dealing with today. Months later, we're still dealing with it because today, I mean, they're like I said, they're saying put your stuff up to 78 because it's going to get so hot and your power will go out. I mean, I've been noticing, and it wasn't just me. A lot of other people have been noticing that the internet's even acting wonky, like, oh, I don't know. Now, could it be everyone, on that same, kind of internet? Yeah, maybe, but I'm seeing it with a lot of other people too. So I don't know if that has something to do with it as well. I definitely want to check it out and figure out what's going on. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about